If you're more afraid of losing your job than you are of Jesus, well, you've got a Jesus problem, not a job problem. If you're more afraid of what people might think about you than you are of the Creator who made them, well, you've placed your fear in the wrong place. You see, most men, we spend our lives terrified of circumstances, afraid of the storm that might come next. But Jesus, he's safe, he's comfortable, and it's killing your faith. Because a Jesus you don't fear can't calm the storms that you do fear. Let me explain. Just take a look at the water behind me. It's pretty gentle right now, but when a storm comes, things can change really quickly. That water can rise, it can overtake the banks. And that's what men are so often afraid of. That storm that's unexpected that we can't control, the job situation that we don't know what's going to happen, the relationship situation that's out of control, or our financial situation where we feel like we're just about to lose everything. We're terrified when those situations hit. Here's what's kind of crazy about all this. We want Jesus to take control of the storm and get us out, but our finances, our job, our relationships, our everyday life, not so much. It's like we want Jesus' power. We want to control him when we don't need him, when things are going well. We just want him to curl up in the corner and wait until we call on him later. Let me tell you a true story that kind of illustrates what I'm talking about here. Maybe you remember the old duo from Las Vegas, Siegfried and Roy. Probably one of the most successful duos to ever perform in Las Vegas. And their thing that they did, they would train these big white tigers and they'd put on these shows with them and do these tricks with them. And there was this one particular tiger, this big white tiger named Manticore. Roy had taken in Manticore as a cub and spent years getting him trained up, and they had started to do shows together. And then one night in October of 2003, after Manticore had performed over 2,000 shows with them without any sort of incident, all of a sudden, in the middle of the show, with no reason to see, Manticore grabbed Roy by his neck and drug him off the stage. And the attack was so fierce, it actually took several crew members to wrestle Manticore away. But it was too late. Roy had already lost a massive amount of blood. The tiger had actually severed his spine. And because of the attack, it actually caused Roy to have a stroke. It paralyzed him partially, and Roy never fully recovered. 44 years they'd put on this show, and now in the blink of an eye, it's all over. Why? Because you can train a tiger, but you can't take a 400-pound apex predator and tame him, because he's still a tiger. He's still dangerous. You can't do that with Jesus either. You see, here's the problem. This tame, domesticated version of Jesus that we like to keep in the corner, when the storms come up, that version of Jesus is useless. Because a Jesus you don't fear can't save you from the storms that you do fear. In Mark chapter 4, we read this story about Jesus and his disciples crossing over in a boat on the Sea of Galilee. And out of nowhere, this storm arises. It's a fierce storm. The waves start crashing in on the boat. It starts filling with water. The disciples start panicking. They know that they're experienced fishermen, but it's a dangerous moment. They're about to lose control, and they're probably about to die. They look over their shoulder, and they see Jesus, and he's asleep. And they go to wake him up, and as they shake him awake, they're accusatory. They're mad at him, kind of wondering, why is our rabbi sleeping when we're about to die? And they wake him up and say, don't you care? And Jesus stands up, raises his hands to the sea, and says, silence, be still. And in that moment, instantly, the rain stops, the storm stops, the clouds part, the waves settle, and there's a calmness over the sea. So here's what happens. After Jesus stands and rebukes the storm, the disciples are all of a sudden terrified of Jesus. Moments before, they're terrified of the storm, but now, because of what Jesus has done, they're terrified of him. And they ask a question: who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey him? Now pause here, because that fear of the Lord, it's probably not what you think. The fear of the Lord of these disciples and the fear of the Lord that we're talking about is this awe, this respect, this reverence, because you realize that you're standing in the presence of the creator of the universe, the one who can do all things, the always present, all powerful, all knowing, King of kings and Lord of lords. It's not a terror of God. They weren't afraid that Jesus was going to hurt them. But there is a kind of terror that can be involved in this. And that terror comes up when you are living in opposition to the Lord. See, if you don't follow Jesus, if you've not made Jesus your Lord and Savior, then the reality is we're enemies of Jesus. We're subject to the wrath of God. And that is a fear that is sheer terror. But this fear of the disciples, this fear of Jesus, where they stand in awe and respect of who he is, well, that kind of fear actually brings freedom. Because you begin to realize if you are standing in the presence of the King of Kings and the creator of the universe, and he is on your side, what is there to fear? And you can live in the freedom that when you fear him, you fear nothing else. Fear him, fear nothing. Because here's what changes in that moment. You begin to realize you aren't in control of anything. He's in control of all of it. And when that storm comes up, there's nothing to fear because he's in control. The wind and the waves obey him. And so does your bank account. So does your health. Now, it may not always end up the way that you hope, but when you stand with the King of Kings and the creator of the universe, who can stand against you? In those moments, the storm doesn't get smaller. Jesus gets bigger. And you gain freedom when you realize you were never in control to start with. So let me ask you, what storm are you facing right now? Where's the water filling your boat? What fear is overcoming you? Have you forgotten who you're in the boat with? Listen, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, he has control. No matter what storm in life that you may be facing, you are in the boat with the King of the universe, the same King who created all things, the same King who the disciples learned the wind and the waves obey. So if the wind and the waves obey him, if your finances obey him, if all things in this universe are under his control, I guess the question is, will you obey him? So here's your challenge this week. What's the one thing right now that's filling your boat? What are you afraid of? Type it out, because naming it is the start of moving past it, of letting the Lord take control of it. Type it out, leave it in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed already, join us here on this channel. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and share this with a friend who you think might need it. Men, we're growing something here. We're building men who follow Jesus. Would you join us in that? See you next time.